I absolutely love using Ecamm. I have 2 Stream Decks. I love using a tool called Keyboard Maestro for some keyboard shortcuts. And I've combined a lot of these things into my process. Now, inside the Ecamm group, somebody asked, Michael Hyatt, asked if I could explain how I'm doing some of my stuff. Now, let me caveat that with I've started using Ecamm without really totally understanding really how it works. And this is going to be a long video, so I'm going to do a demo of what I do at the beginning, and then if you really want to see the details, stick around, or watch this on 2x speed, because it's going to probably be a while. Now, my superpower is that I build contests for clients, and I love to teach. And so what I am doing as kind of a second thing is teaching people how to run contests. Now, imagine, I want to make sure you understand the words. So imagine win a new car, win an iPhone, those kind of things. And so I get on Facebook Live using Ecamm, and I get rather passionate about this. And I do webinars too. I've done long trainings, but I don't want to sit and go through a PowerPoint, okay? I've seen Adrian tell us how to do PowerPoints and do the next stuff back forwards, but I need random access to everything that I'm wanting to teach. So, if we look into Ecamm, I'll show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and I'm going to show you my desktop, and we'll look at the Stream Deck and how that works. And again, this is potentially going to take a while. Here's my desktop, and this is not my normal setup because I normally have the overlays over on my second monitor, but I needed to be able to show it to you. Now, you see that I have over here on the left, these are the overlays. Here is the setup for, and it's kind of weird because I'm watching what I'm doing, right? Here's the setup for the Stream Deck. Now, I have 2 Stream Decks. I have a 15 and I have a 32 on the XL. I'm not going to dive into that yet. The overlays, though, you see I have quite a few overlays. Now, what you don't see is I also have a lot of things in the folders. And I'm adding more and more all the time. I'm adding these samples, I'm adding testimonials, because I like to toot my own horn, right? And you notice there's only 5 scenes. And I'm building a new one for a show that I'm doing. Inside here, again, I primarily did everything with just the default scene. Now, I've started adding frames, so if I switch to this one, you'll see there's a frame, right? And when I'm doing live stuff, I'm now doing the side like Loria does and present stuff here in the middle from the desktop. But typically, what I started doing was everything this way. And so, what I ended up doing is driving all of this once I discovered the Stream Deck with the Stream Deck. Now, let's dive into that just for a second. You'll see as I kind of demonstrate what I'm doing here, how it works, right? So this frame at the top, and I'm trying to point with my hands. This frame where I am is what's going out on the broadcast, right? They don't see all the other overlay stuff, all of these things. All right, you guys know how Ecamm works. The 15, which is what I'm showing here, is what I'm using to drive the 32, the XL. And most of the time, you will see that the 15 stays the same, and I'm not going to really even show you the 15 very often. The XL is driven by the 15. And let me just go back and demonstrate that. When I'm doing a presentation, sometimes I want to, I've got all those overlays in a whole bunch of different places. Let me try to explain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the Prezi Text button on my 15. And what you don't see is that switched. Maybe it's, let's go back. let's go back home, and I'll show you that the XL is currently on this screen, which is kind of my home screen, and there's some weird stuff on here, blah, blah, blah. But primarily what I want it to do is to go into some of my presentation stuff, right? So here's the profile for my presentations. Obviously, and let me put it just back here and switch back to the 15. So you see when I press the 15, and you don't see it happen here, but I go to the XL, and the XL is switched over to a different profile. Let's say, for example, I want to press this Get Info button at the top. Now, it's not, so let me just do it, show you how it works, right? Here's a slide, something that Pete Vargas taught me. You must collect people's information if you want to connect with them, right? So this is about building an email list through contests. Notice that I have a red, what's it called? Icon. If I go into this, a lot of these are multi-action steps. Right now, it's red because it's on the second step, which means to me, visually, when I'm looking at my Stream Deck, that slide is currently seen by people. So if I look down at my Stream Deck, I can see this one's red, so people are seeing that. And I need to press it again to make that go away, right? So now, going into this, there's an overlay. And again, I'm not, at this point, using scenes. I'm using the default scene. And I show a particular overlay, right? And if you look over in this long list of stuff somewhere, it's probably in this Prezi's slides stuff. I don't remember exactly. Here it is. You must collect people's information, right? So if I press that, it turns on the overlay, and people see that. You see the eyeball there, and you see it's highlighted. And if I press the Stream Deck again, what's going to happen? Now, I used to have some audio, so there's a stop audio thing, but I've turned the audios off mainly. And so it hides that overlay, right? So if I press that, I'm back to doing my presentation, or my video. Facebook Live, I'm talking, I'm getting really passionate about the topic because I love talking about giveaways and how to build your email list. Little promo kind of stuff. And so I go through some of these things, and let's say I want to explain to people, the number one reason why contests fail. So I have a slide for that. So I pressed this one down here. You see that it's gone red, so that I can visually, again, see that is currently shown to people. So what happens is I will go over to, say, Safari, and I'm looking at National Enquirer titles because I wanted to learn how to do titles, right? All right. And so people are potentially seeing a slide where I'm over looking at Safari, and so if I look down on the Stream Deck, I can see that there's still a slide over my face or over the desktop or whatever, because that's currently in front, right? So let me hide this because it's annoying. So that's why I really love the red side of that, right? Let me also just show you that I've got, an icon, and I'm using just a black icon for the front and a title, right, with the titler. And then on the back side, I've got the red icon, thumbnail, whatever you want to call it. So that's how I'm managing the Stream Deck to turn slides on and off. Does that make sense? I also use the Stream Deck, for example, if I press this lower one, I switch over to a new way that I'm doing it. Joel Bauer, I don't know if you know Joel Bauer, teaches how to sell. And he does something called a matrix. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is to create a series of subfolders. So if I go, for example, I've done a contest for Fuji. If I press the Fuji button here, I can demonstrate things, and I fully don't have these fleshed out yet, but again, I can press display a scene, turn it off. So I have the whole key to this has always been that I wanted random access to presentation slides to be able to make a specific point about the topic I'm trying to teach. I didn't want to be tied down to trying to scroll through a keynote presentation or to manually look at the overlays and try to turn them on and off, right? The Stream Deck is a great tool for making things like that happen. So fast forward a little bit, I've kind of learned how to do some scenes. So if I turn on this one, and I've been kind of just playing with different backgrounds, right? So I have one that's a painting that I've gotten off of Unsplash, for example. And what I'm now doing is creating some of these presentation buttons on my Stream Deck to switch between these scenes so that I can put a decent frame around stuff and make it a little bit more professional, right? And so I've added some functionality. If I go back into here, and if what I need to do, I'm going to, on my 15, I'm going to press a button to go to a different profile. And what I'm calling, that's not the right one, it's this one, Prezi stuff, and the name doesn't really matter. But these that are in green, I'm using green to match that green Northern Lights background that I grabbed for fun. Here's that same Pete Vargas slide. So I'm going to press that one to give you the demo. And it theoretically should switch, right? And so what that's doing is I realized that you could, like, open preview, and to get it to display that slide. So this one's actually not an overlay. This one's actually a preview. If you see, let me do this, right? Preview is open. So if I switch to preview, you see there's a window here with that slide. Now, I still have the other the other Stream Deck button. So if I'm not going to show you, well, you can see it switching back here, right? And the Pete Vargas one still says that it's up because it's red, but I turned it off manually over here. So it's going to be backwards, which is why I'd like the function to be able to reset these, because it's red right now. But if I press it again, oh, I'm on the wrong thing. And then that's where you kind of can get lost in, see, I was on the wrong, you get lost. I got so many things, but when I get flowing in a presentation, it really usually works right. But I can still display the full one from the overlay inside of Ecamm. That's that one. But if I go back to my newer buttons, you'll see that this is what would be going out to everybody watching, right? And so there's the frame. I'm in the frame. And I could have scrolling tickers or whatever. So I like this better because people can see me and I can use my hands a little bit as long as I remember to be close to my face. And I can have the slide up there. And so what I'm doing, if you want to see that inside of here, is that I'm on the second side. So let me switch to the first side. So I open this physical file out on the operating system, right? So I have a folder where that slide exists. Now, if I do an open, it opens preview, right? The default for opening it's a PNG is to open preview. So preview opens. I'm using, again, I mentioned Keyboard Maestro. If I bring that up over here, I'm using Keyboard Maestro with this Command-Shift F14 button will resize the screen the frontmost window, I should say. It will resize the frontmost window so that it will fit exactly in this frame. Now I've got this, I'm going to hide it, so you see over here is still preview, right? So if I bring that to the front, this is what Ecamm is showing to the world. And so then I do open Ecamm, which forces the Mac to switch back to Ecamm so I can see the frame. People see that as what's going out, and I switch to a scene, which brings me to this frame, right? Now, the way things are set up, I don't think this is the perfect example. Let me switch to, because I've changed a little bit. I think it's this one. No. This is what happens when you do things live. I know there's a couple where I've put in a pause. The key to the process is that the output, the people that see this, don't see all the switching that happens. All they end up seeing is the end result. And since you can't see my third monitor, which is where I'm displaying all of that stuff, anyway, the idea is that they don't see all the background stuff, and they just see it switch from, theoretically, it's going to switch from the full screen, right? This was where I'm typically talking, and then I say I want to do, like display the Pete Vargas thing. If I press that again, because it's off, let me press it again, and this is where you get into trouble, but it's, the off button switches to this profile, right? Or I'm sorry, to this scene. And if I press it again, it does these things, but all they see is the switch to this. Hopefully that makes sense. So there you go. Let me turn that off. I think that's just about everything that I wanted to cover. I don't have to, during the presentations, during the lives, click on anything in this overlay slider, but you see there's a whole bunch of stuff. The key is with the Stream Deck, I can configure which things show, which things don't, change scenes, change overlays, and now I can even use preview to display the slides inside the frame that I want to show them, which is going to be a lot more cool. Now I have to manually go through and create a whole bunch of new buttons, which is why on the Stream Deck, what you didn't see when I struggled to, pardon me, when I struggled to find the right thing, the right key on the 15, was that I'm now moving a lot of these things over to this new presentation format. So the overlays are already in Ecamm, but now I've got a special folder where I'm moving them, and as I move them, I'm changing the colors so that I know that it's either in this format or in the old format. So I can still do what I need to do while I'm converting things to the new way. All right. Again, that's way long. There's a lot of information in there. Please feel free to ask me questions. Happy to help you learn how to do contests and giveaways. If you want to find out, I'm over on giveawayrocket.com. There's a shop, by the way. So if I go to my home button and I go to Ecamm and I can do this button, because this one I believe is converted. It's run. That's the one I wanted to show, really. And I know it's on Safari, and that one, it didn't work. So I keep practicing. I keep trying to make these things work, right? What that's supposed to do is actually go to the store, but anyway. So you see that the overlay, it's the wrong overlay. And I need to work on making that right. But let me show you. The problem was that Safari was hidden. Normally I have Safari open and to a blank screen so you don't see all that junk. So that's my fault. But if I double click this and show you, this is the one that has the delays in it that I started working on. So I run a macro, and that macro actually types in, I'll bring this over on screen. So I use Restream, which I didn't mention before, but I also use Restream Chat. And Restream Chat has the ability for me down here at the bottom to type a message, right? So I can type comment and have it appear. This macro opens Restream Chat. If it's not open, it should be open when I'm doing a presentation. It types in a link and then hits enter so that people will see it. So then there's a delay inside of the Stream Deck. Then I open Safari. I keep putting in the delays because I've learned that sometimes things take a while, right? And the problem was there wasn't enough of a delay when I switched to Safari because this window wasn't open, right? So let me get a blank screen, come back to Ecamm. I'm sorry, come back to keyboard Stream Deck. So then there's a hotkey which does a new tab for Safari. There's a Command L which takes me up to the address bar. So I'm kind of doing some of the functions that I used to do inside of the Keyboard Maestro, the macro tool, and I'm doing them in here, which is why I really wanted to show this one. And then I type some text, and now that's the URL for the shop. There's another delay. I switch scenes. I wanted to make sure that I was doing screen share, so that Ecamm is showing the desktop, right? Then there's an overlay, which is the lower thirds. Here's the lower thirds, sorry. This one is the text for the URL. And then I switch the profile of the Stream Deck back to where I need it to be when I'm typically running. So let's try that again. So I'm doing my presentation, right? I want to tell people to go to my store. I press the button on the Stream Deck. It switches. There's going to the right URL. There's my shop. And for some reason, it's not resizing properly, but that's this keyboard shortcut. So now here I am doing my presentation. Obviously, I would not have that there. And so I'm talking, and now I'm showing my store, right? It has my logo, it has the URL right here, and if I bring back the Restream Chat, the URL theoretically has gone out to everybody that's watching. There's a lot of moving pieces there which cause things to fail, obviously, sometimes. But usually, I had different things open for this. What I usually do is go through before the show. Let me turn that off, which takes me back to here. Yay, that works. But before the show, I make sure all the junk is out of the way, right? I make sure that I have Safari where I need to be to start, and all those things are set up properly. And I actually have a keyboard shortcut inside a Keyboard Maestro that opens Ecamm, it opens Restream, it opens Restream Chat, checks the audio and stuff, and then the last thing it does is it pops up a checklist for me. Well, I can't show you that because I already have all this stuff open. But then that makes me think about all those things I need to do. All right, now that I think is everything that I wanted to share with you guys. I know it's really long, and I apologize for that, but I got a lot of things going on. Maybe you can take a nugget out of any of that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you're probably going, why the hell did I just listen to this guy talk for so long? And again, I am not an expert. If I had done things from scratch, I probably would have used scenes differently. But part of the difference is in the way, like, for example, Loria, she has a plan. She's going to talk about this. She's going to talk about that. She's got these scenes set up that she goes in sequence for her show. And that's great for her. And if I were doing a training class, I potentially could set up something for a class where I would go scene by scene by scene. But the way my brain works when I'm talking to people, especially if questions come up in the Facebook chat or in Restream, and those come up from wherever I'm restreaming, I like to be able to have access to those random things so that I can jump over and do the presentation, and I can go, well, I need to show that Pete Vargas thing. Right? Look, it worked. So that I can talk about that. So it takes me a fraction of a second or two to go find the right buttons to get where I need to go. And practice is making that very easy. When I get into the flow of doing a presentation, it works really well. And when I'm done, bang, back to me. So it's great. I love it. It's so fun. And people are like, wow, Mitch, that's really cool. How do you do that? Hopefully I'm getting across the message on how to build contests and how to grow your email list and how to grow your business, but that's, we're talking techie stuff. Thank you for watching. I know I go long. I get really excited about this stuff. I get excited about contests. I get excited about the tech stuff. And if you have any questions, ping me on Facebook. My name is Mitch Aunger, Aunger, if you don't know who I am. Or just go to giveawayrocket.com. There's a contact me button. You can play around in my shop now that you know where it is, etc., etc. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who asks questions. That prompts me to do stuff like this, and I hope that serves you. Oh, well, dang. Why don't I show you one of the other cool things? I know, you probably tuned out, right? On the... On the 15, I have a button called the In and Out Burger. You might not have, or you might have seen it and gone, what the heck is that? Well, that switches me over to the XL, and I have an intro outro screen. And so what I have done is created some fun things, and I don't even know how well this is gonna work. Maybe you'll see it. Maybe. It should work. So there's these long sequences, right? So this has hide show overlays, it has delays, it has audio, it has all kinds of fun stuff. So that's how I'm ending my Facebook lives. Let me just do this one. I'm going to press success stories and you'll see what it does.
Oh my gosh, Mitch, do you hear yourself?
That's a great piece of advice.
Bye! Bye, everybody!
Bye.
Goodbye.
I had a fun time. Now turn that off.
So what I'm doing at the end of my Facebook Lives, obviously, is showing some testimonials, having a little bit of music, having a little bit of fun, which is what I do for my contests, is try to make it fun. So this also gives me a little bit of time to get out, and this is the last live that'll show, because I have to switch more. I could keep doing more, obviously, but let me turn it off. And that's the way I end my shows, so that it's just a little bit of fun extra stuff, which is how I should end this, but I don't have a good way to end it, so thanks for watching.